My name is Henk Huizer. I work as a curriculum and learning designer at QUT. Today's session is called Belonging in Online Environments. It's based on a Journal of University Teaching and Learning practice, Journal of University Learning and Teaching and Learning Practice, special issue. And what I'll do is I'll put the link in the chat, so you can have a look at that. And so that came out a few weeks ago now, and I saw that the editor Joey is here as well today, so welcome. And so basically I've selected a couple of papers that sounded interesting and relevant to TELedvisors today to present, and I will now introduce our last speaker for today, who gets the prize of most dedicated. He is based in Norway at Østfold University College. And so for him, it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's 20 minutes to 5 in the morning. Is that correct, Ammar?
Yeah, 20. Yes, right.
Okay. So Ammar's
Good morning,
doing
yes.
so we really appreciate it. Thanks for coming. So Ammar's doing a PhD at Østfold University College, and his project is part of a DigiEd, one of the thematic areas of a broader interdisciplinary strategic research initiative called the Digital Society that the University College is taking on. And so over to you, Ammar. You should be able to drive the slides, or I can if you want me to.
Okay, I will try. If that couldn't work, then of course we'll ask for the help. Okay, thank you for inviting me, and good morning to all of you from Norway. Maybe it's a good night and evening. Okay. Yes. Okay. The title is exactly the same of my article, but of course you asked me to say something about belonging in the digital learning environment. But I will later discuss about these things, how I would like to address this issue. And okay, a little bit faster. Okay, this is a sort of research context of my study. You know, the participants are teachers and student teachers, and who took the ICT-paired MOOC. The MOOC is sort of, they call it a massive open courses, but there are around below the 500 students every year. And in the MOOCs, there are around 300 students in the course. And this MOOC is quite popular in Norway, and it has been offered since 2014. And then it's kind of longest running, one of the longest running MOOCs. And it aims to develop teachers' professional digital competence, which is kind of big focus in Norway or European context. And then so those who wish to like to take this course, they should have at least upper secondary school passed. So it's a credit bearing MOOCs, and all teaching and learnings are done online, fully online. And so I was more interested into how collaborative teaching and learning sort of emerge in online sessions, online meetings, exactly like this sort of meetings. So I sent invitations to all of the participants. Only 30 participants agreed to participate in my research. So only 23 sort of gave me the informed consent that they could share the data with me. And these are the two research questions I wanted to address, and then how they sort of engage in collaborative epistemic action in online meetings, and then how these digital technology facilitates students learning during the online meetings. And here, I mean, the collaborative epistemic action means how they involved, how they engage in the online meetings, how the meeting was initiated, and then how it was conducted, how it was concluded, and what sort of digital technologies, and I think anything that they could use to support their learning is sort of understood as a digital technology here. For example, my PowerPoint slide, it can be a technology, or it is sort of mediating our discussion. And but I haven't, these are all from my paper, the sort of my finding from the literature review that collaborative and social learning activities in the MOOCs are crucial to promoting learning, knowledge co-construction and innovations. And so the many researchers sort of argue we should design the online learning environment that could integrate communications, interaction, collaborations. And at the same time, they also sort of highlight that these activities are not prioritized. And so they sort of document that lack of social collaborative learning activities sort of kind of one of the main causes of promoting students' disengagement, alienations, and finally drop out of the course. Of course, these issues of belonging and becoming, they are addressed from different sort of framework, like teacher presence, community of teaching, community of practice framework, or different sort of framework. And but my argument is that sort of issues of belonging and becoming, and they only come into realizations when we engage together to learn or to solve something. So my method of data analysis is the interaction analysis, and I analyze a 49 minutes long videos, and my sort of position is that collaborative meeting or meaning making is a joint learning process of how to solve the problem, or how to understand something. And so I kind of look into the meeting from a pedagogical theory developed by Galperin. And Galperin is a cultural historical theory sort of scholar from the cultural historical theory, and he has sort of described about how pedagogical practices can be systematically conducted to develop the students in higher psychological functions or cognitive functions, or sort of develop our enhanced ability to solve the problems or challenges. And this is a theoretical lenses I have used, because learning is a social, mutual, collaborative process of understanding or solving problem using mediation resources. And those mediation resources can be human resources or technological resources or any sort of resources. So one of the main arguments is that the proper understanding is developed and expanded in interaction and collaborations. And I found this Stetsenko is very powerful in sort of conceptualizing the collaborative practices, and she say sort of collaborative practices constitute the primary relations connecting individual to their all and giving rise to the psychological processes. These are cognition, self-regulations, emotions, with the individual acting an agent involved in collaborative practices that issue in psychological process in knowledge construction. And she has sort of said learning is a process of being, knowing, and doing something together to understand the problem or to solve the problem. So here my argument in this article is that interaction and collaboration sort of create a zone of proximal development. They students sort of realize what they can do and what they sort of lack, they only realize when they engage in the collaborative learning or interactions. So these online meetings have been conceptualized as a socio-pedagogical spaces for belonging and intellectual becoming, and then the belonging is a very part of collaborative learning. So we can't, yeah. And intellectual becoming or developing enhanced capability requires a systematic approach to learning. This is what Galbraith said, and my professor, my supervisor is working on the Galbraith theory of teaching and learning. And agency also the very important part in online teaching and learning, because we are sort of remotely located, we don't know each other, and then so it's a very much initiative taking in learning processes. So if you don't take initiations to connect and to collaborate, and then it's very hard to establish the sort of relationship and learning. And so I have used the term the collaborative epistemic actions. That term sort of, yeah, I have got a lot of feedback or criticism about the term also from my colleagues also. And here I want to define that when we engage in collective learning processes to conduct them, or to understand something by revealing our epistemic position. Here, on the term is the position, epistemic position is what I know about the topic being discussed. So those who are engaged in the process, they themselves take the initiation revealing about the state of knowledge. So, okay, this is the topic I have prepared, or this is the degree of my preparedness, so I would involve in this way in the meeting. So I call those sort of thing as a collaborative epistemic actions. And I have not sort of shown my data. These are data are all in my paper if you have gone through it. But by looking into the meeting, I found the prominent sort of stages or epistemic actions. They are more about co-orientations. This is working together in this small group. There are only 3 students, and they sort of co-oriented each other. That means they rebuild their positions and how to engage the meetings. Also, they say how they would like to participate in the meetings, engage into the meeting. And then also, they also revealed about the state of their preparedness or willingness to engage in the discussion. So I call that co-orientations, and then the meeting took place in the Microsoft Teams. So that's a team meetings. So I sort of sort of describe Teams as a space for the engagement. And then the second stage, they talk about, they sort of share PowerPoint presentations or one documents of the draft of the examination assignment. And then the object of discussion in the meeting was how to solve their examination assignment. So that they were told to sort of collaborate or learn together. And so in the second stage, sort of sharing, visualizing, and sense-making process is started with the help of one document or something shared on the screen. So there is a lot of showing and focusing with the help of cursor pointing and so many things. And then third sort of action was sort of assessment. They are now started questioning how I would solve those things, how I will create a flipped classroom sort of things. And then explicating and expanding, assessing and verifying ideas, and they were the main epistemic activity in the third epistemic actions. And it's still the OneNote document, they remain in the background, and they frequently use the document to sort of confirm about their ideas or positions. And the final action was the reflection. That was more about reflecting upon the key understanding. Okay, this is what I understood, or I was not clear about this thing, or these are the things I became clear about. And then, so figuring out the challenging issues and then concluding, then outline the further steps. And some of them were not clear, so they actually asked for the follow-up meetings, but they remain unsure whether they could follow-up. They could have a follow-up meetings. And then, so here is my conclusion. And those who are aware of their learning goals and needs, they sort of can co-orient their own collaborative learning by revealing their epistemic positions. Those who are having more or less knowledge, or taking their sort of epistemic position also, what they want to be in the listener, presenter, feedback provider in the very beginning of the learning processes, and that sort of helped them map out available resources in the meeting probably. And the digital technologies, such as the OneNote documents, that was very prominent in the presentation stage of the collaborative learning, because it sort of visualized and detailing the ideas, and sort of that stimulated interaction among students, and who remain sort of uncertain how to engage, or who chose to become listener or passive. They actually become very active in this process. They started becoming active. And then second one is that I found that, so I call that when they started changing their epistemic positions from listener to active contributor to the learning process, then the learning became more expanded or deepened from the second stage. And in the assessment stage, what happened is that they're fully immersed into the learning processes and enacting the agency that could develop their co-agency. I mean, agency means sort of they are very curious and asking questions. That means they're attempting to know how to engage or how to make sense of those things. So that is understood as a concept of agency here. And then, so enacting agency could also lead to developing the co-agency. We develop our agency together when we engage in the learning. So technology can play a crucial role in transforming students' epistemic positioning. And so a technological tool could mediate in transforming our position from being passive to being active. And this is the last slide, probably. Yeah. And so in the last stage, sort of reflection that involved reflecting upon key understanding, restructuring, and also to complete the concept discuss and outlining further steps to complete the examination assessment. So here, sort of, this is a kind of not clearly formed sentences, but here it means reflecting, sort of take away what they have understood from the meetings, and how those can be applied, or what the further steps can be taken. So reflection on knowledge in groups can also mediate self-regulations. That means sort of leading to developing enhanced problem-solving capability. And so my argument here that online collaborative learning meetings can develop a relational zone for social, emotional, and intellectual becoming among the remotely located students. So when we engage in the collaborative learning, then we sort of feel the sense of sort of being belonged or trusted or drawn into the processes. And finally, and then technology can afford sort of a space for social, emotional, and cognitive becoming, or learning, or intellectual becoming. And that's all. I think, I hope I made it clear. It's quite. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ammar. That's great. We've got 1 minute left, so I'll ask you a quick question. You talked about a community of practice framework, and which involves interaction and collaboration, which is traditionally quite a challenge in MOOCs, to try and get people to collaborate and interact. So how can you design that into a MOOC? I guess is my question. Like, how can you stimulate interaction and collaboration?
Now,
big question.
And then what is the sort of notable differences between these traditional MOOCs, I call the MOOCs offered by FutureLearn or Coursera, edX? That's just, you just design and deliver, and then you don't think much about engaging with students. But in the institutional MOOCs, and they just sort of, the theses are all around the discussion forum or other discussion forum. They're just following what students are doing, and so they're quite worried in how they could support them. So they are very much engaging from the very beginning process, and that initiation taking from the thesis also sort of promoting itself engagement of students in different spaces, like in the Facebook, like a group of the courses or Canvas, or other email, or sort of third. So in the courses, so they encourage the students to engage in online collaborative teaching and learning, so support each other and solve the problem more creatively. So that sort of things were increased. So their every action activities are followed by the teachers. So that process is, motivating many of the students to engage in different sort of spaces, whether in the Facebook or Canvas, or they can also sort of make an agreement with the instructor to have a discussion meeting also. Yeah. And
Right.
sorry, just one point from traditional research that we can find, like the traditional MOOCs. Thus, you could engage in the Facebook or discussion forum, or just typing and posting is sort of conceptualize the teacher presence or student presence. So from that, we develop a collaborative learning, a sense of belonging, a community. But but I was more about into how it actually happens in those meetings.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. So again, thanks.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You, Ammar, for getting up so early and for a great presentation. And thanks very much to Beate and Nicole as well. It's been an excellent session. So, and thanks for everyone who's still here for attending. Yeah, and the next webinar is at the end of September. So looking forward to seeing you all again.